Have you ever stood in your home and felt like it was beautiful, but not alive? You've cleaned, you've arranged, you've added color, crystals, candles, calm, but something still holds back, still resists, still doesn't breathe with you. Because in Feng Shui, beauty without energy is just appearance, and harmony without flow is still stuck. Sometimes what blocks energy doesn't creak, doesn't clutter, doesn't shout. It whispers from a corner you've forgotten, from a drawer you haven't opened, from an object you kept long after its story ended. This isn't just a video. It's a quiet unfolding through 35 places in your home where energy may be leaking, lingering, or asking to be seen. Room by room, object by object, layer by layer. Not to perfect your home, but to come home to it. To live in a space that doesn't just shelter your body, but holds your energy too. Take a breath. Let the shift begin. The first silent block. A cluttered entry equals a blocked flow. Have you ever walked into your home and sighed? Not because of the day you had, but because of what greeted you at the door. In Feng Shui, your front entrance is sacred. They call it the mouth of Qi. It's where energy, opportunity, even abundance enters your life. But what happens when that space is blocked? Shoes piled up, packages still unopened, dust that quietly settled. The message your home sends becomes, there's no room for anything new. I once worked with Tara, a single mom in Chicago. Her entrance was a war zone. Old boxes, broken toys, bags she meant to return but never did. She told me, I just want each day to feel like it's starting clean. We didn't change her whole house. We just started at the beginning. We cleared 3 feet around the door, cleaned like we were tending to her own energy field, placed a small bamboo plant for resilience, hung a round mirror not facing the door to invite light in. 2 weeks later, she messaged me. A client I had chased for 5 months called back. Just said they felt I was the right fit. I didn't change anything else, just the entry. If life feels stuck right now, start at your entrance. Clear it. Let it breathe. Because when energy has space to enter, so do new opportunities. And remember, your home doesn't just welcome guests. It welcomes your future. But sometimes, energy doesn't just get blocked at the door. It leaks through the things we keep, even when they're already broken. And when we live with broken things long enough, we start believing wholeness isn't possible. The second silent leak. Broken objects equals broken energy. There's a chipped cup sitting quietly in your kitchen. You never use it, but you've never thrown it out either. Or maybe it's that drawer you have to tug 3 times to close. Small things, harmless, but in Feng Shui, broken objects carry silent stories. And those stories leak energy. They whisper to your space, I've accepted that things don't work. I once held on to a small incense bowl. It had a thin, almost invisible crack. It was the last gift from someone I once loved deeply. For years, it sat on my altar, not because it was useful, but because I wasn't ready to let it go. Then one day, the afternoon light caught the dust in the crack, and it looked just like a wound never fully healed. I reached out, touched it, and realized I wasn't just holding a bowl. I was holding a version of myself that no longer existed. So I let it go, and that evening, my space felt like it exhaled. And so did I. If something around you is broken, pause, notice it. Ask, does this still reflect who I am or who I used to be? If it no longer serves you, thank it and release it, because the things you live with shape the energy you live in. And sometimes letting go of the small is what finally makes space for something whole. But sometimes, hey, it's not the things we see. It's what we tuck away behind closed doors. And that's where the third mistake hides. The third silent weight. An overstuffed closet equals a clouded mind. Clarity doesn't start with more thinking. It begins with quiet. But when your closet is crammed, when opening, it feels like a battle. It's not just fabric you're fighting with. It's energy. In Feng Shui, the closet isn't just for clothes. It's your subconscious. It holds a shirt from the job you left 3 years ago, a dress you once loved but no longer wear, and outfits for a someday version of you that never arrived. These pieces aren't just taking up space. They're clouding your ability to see who you are now. I once worked with Olivia, a young coach in Phoenix. She was full of ideas, but always felt mentally jammed. I know what I need to do, she said, but everything just feels tangled. We didn't map out a business plan. We opened her closet. She picked a single shelf, held each item, and asked, would I wear this to meet the future version of myself? That one shift, was all it took. A week later, she emailed, I registered my business. And for the first time, my mind feels like it exhaled. You don't need to clean the whole thing. Start with one section, one drawer. Hold each item and ask, does this support the self I'm stepping into? If not, thank it and release it. Because every time you clear physical space, you make room for mental light. But even when our shelves are tidy, somewhere else may still be stirring. Your body rests, but your mind? It may still be alert. That's the fourth mistake. The fourth silent disruption. A misplaced bed equals a mind that can't rest. There's one place in your home meant for deep restoration. Not your desk, not your kitchen, but your bed. In Feng Shui, the bed isn't just for sleep. It's your sanctuary, where your body, mind, and spirit come back to center. But when your bed is placed wrong, when your headboard floats with no support, when the mirror reflects your sleeping body, when the door opens straight to your side, you don't rest. You stay on alert. even as your eyes close, your energy field remains half awake, scanning, bracing. And you wonder why you wake up tired. I once worked with Mark, a freelance photographer in Seattle. He said he slept, technically, but woke up every morning feeling like he hadn't been home in his own body. His room was modern, clean, but the bed? Tilted, no headboard, a mirror opposite, and the door swung open directly into his sleeping space. I asked him, what would it feel like if your bed held you like a safe hand beneath your spine? He adjusted 3 things. Moved the bed so the head touched a firm wall, hung a soft cloth over the mirror at night, repositioned a small table between bed and door as a boundary of welcome. 3 days later, he messaged, I don't know what changed, but I woke up today and didn't feel like I had to defend myself. Sometimes rest isn't about sleep. It's about finally surrendering. Look at your bedroom. Can you see the door without being directly in line with it? Does your headboard lean into something stable? Is there anything reflecting you as you rest? Make your sleep space feel protected, because the place you surrender to each night should never make your nervous system stay on guard. And sometimes, even when the space is clean, the bed aligned, the closets cleared, there's still silence. But not the kind that soothes, the kind that says, nothing is moving. And that's where the 5th and final mistake waits. The 5th silent void, a space too quiet equals energy that doesn't speak back. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like nothing lives there? It's not messy. It's not broken. It's not even wrong. It's just silent, and not the good kind. In Feng Shui, space is not just where we live. It's where we converse with life itself. And when a space is too quiet, when there's no movement, no sound, no welcome, it begins to say, nothing here is expecting connection. I visited a client once, an older man who lived alone in San Jose. His apartment was spotless, minimalist, organized. But the moment I stepped inside, it felt like the air had forgotten how to move. I asked him, "Does your home talk to you?" He paused, then said, "I don't know, maybe it used to. Or maybe I stopped listening." We didn't add much, just a few things. A soft playlist of piano in the mornings, a small orchid on the windowsill to catch light, a tiny wind chime by the door to invite the breeze. A month later, he emailed me, not to talk about the space, but to tell me he'd called his sister after 8 years. "It's strange," he said, "but I think opening my home made me want to open more." If your space feels too quiet, not calm, but lifeless, add something that moves. A sound, a scent, a rhythm. Let your home speak again, because energy needs conversation. And when your home begins to speak back, so does your life. And if something in these quiet shifts stayed with you, even just one thought, that's energy moving. You don't need to do anything. Just notice it. Let it grow. Because every time your space shifts, so does the story it tells the world. You've walked with me through 5 quiet disruptions. 5 tiny shifts that awaken everything. This isn't about perfection. It's about presence. And if any part of this spoke to you, then maybe your home is ready to speak back. Sometimes what feels like abundance is just energy without direction. It moves, it spreads, but it never settles. And sometimes the thing that reflects that scatter is the mirror you pass by every day without ever really seeing it. Mistake 1. The crooked mirror equals the crooked path. You may not notice it, but your mirror is tilted, just a little, off by a few degrees. No big deal, right? But in Feng Shui, crooked reflection equals crooked energy. And crooked energy doesn't just make your space feel off, it quietly distorts your direction. Studies in environmental psychology show that even slight visual misalignments can cause low-grade cognitive stress. Your brain keeps trying to correct what your eyes see, but it can't. So you feel tired, foggy, like something's off, but you can't explain why. Now imagine walking past a tilted mirror every single day. For years, I had a mirror like that once, framed in oak, beautiful, but always just a bit off. I kept it because I thought it fit the wall. But one day, I realized I was avoiding it, not the mirror, the moment it showed me. Because every time I walked past, I didn't just see myself, I saw a version of me that was slightly out of alignment. A crooked mirror is like a compass pointing 5 degrees off true north. You won't notice it at first, but the longer you follow it, the farther you drift from where you were meant to go. So maybe it's not your discipline, ink that's broken. Maybe it's the direction. Your energy has been shown. This isn't a design flaw. It's an energy echo. And echoes repeat until they're reset. Think of that hallway, the one with just enough light and just enough imbalance. You pass it, you pause, you forget, but your nervous system doesn't. I'm not saying your mirror is the only reason, but if you've been feeling off, it might be time to look at what's been looking back at you. If that's the case, try this. Touch your mirror, not to fix it, but to acknowledge it. Straighten it slowly, not just on the wall, but like you're realigning how you want to be seen by life itself. Because in energy, what's misaligned doesn't disappear. It repeats until you bring it back into flow. And if life's been feeling almost right, but never fully clear, maybe it's not your effort. That's off. Maybe it's your reflection. Mistake 2. The memory mirror equals emotions that never left. Sometimes it's not the angle of the mirror that blocks your flow. It's what the mirror still holds. Because a mirror doesn't just reflect light. It reflects memory, emotion, moments that never got closure. Have you ever caught a glimpse of yourself in a mirror you used to stand in front of during a difficult time? Maybe that hallway, that bathroom, that one spot where you once stood with tears in your eyes or tension in your chest. And now, every time you walk by, your body tightens. Just a little. You don't know why, but your nervous system remembers. Neurobiologists have discovered that visual environments become tied to emotional memory. It's called contextual recall. Your body reacts to a space, even if your mind doesn't. That means a mirror can quietly trigger the emotional state you were in the last time you stood in front of it, especially if that emotion was never fully processed. I once stayed in a friend's guest room. Beautiful, peaceful, but I felt anxious all night. The next morning, she told me, that used to be my breakup room. I cried in front of that mirror for months. She moved on, but her mirror didn't. In Feng Shui, a mirror that holds emotional imprint becomes like a sponge for energy. It doesn't just reflect, it absorbs. And if not cleared, it starts to leak that energy back into the space, like a perfume you stopped wearing, but that still lingers in the air. It's not that you're emotionally stuck. It's that the space keeps reminding you of who you were before you healed. You're probably thinking, but I'm fine now, I moved on. And you did. But your mirror may not have. What did your mirror last see when you truly broke down in front of it? And what if it's still echoing that exact energy into today? If this resonates, I try this. Clean your mirror, but not just with glass spray. Wipe it with intention. Start from the center. Move outward. Breathe. As if you're not just clearing dust. You're clearing memory. You can even whisper, "This no longer belongs to me." Let it go. Because in the language of energy, what isn't cleared gets repeated. And what's repeated eventually becomes identity. So if your mirror reflects a version of you that you've already outgrown, then what happens when that same mirror faces something it should never reflect in the first place? That's where we're going next. Mistake 3. The reflection magnet equals multiplying what you don't want. Not every mirror is dangerous, but every mirror is powerful. Because mirrors don't just reflect, they multiply. They double the energy of whatever they face. And that is the problem. Because what if your mirror, is facing something heavy, something chaotic, something just plain wrong? A pile of laundry, a cluttered kitchen sink, an always closed bathroom door, an anxious desk, a tired you. Whatever it faces, it doesn't just bounce it back. It sends it deeper into your space. Studies in neuroarchitecture show that when negative visuals are repeated, your stress response increases. Seeing clutter once? That's one message. Seeing it reflected? That's two. And your body reacts to both. So when your mirror faces the problem, you don't just see it again. You feel it stronger. A friend once had a beautiful mirror in her dining room, framed in gold, but it faced the kitchen sink. No matter how often she cleaned, there was always something out of place. One day she told me, "I don't eat here anymore. It just feels messy." She didn't realize, and it wasn't the kitchen, it was the mirror, multiplying the mess. In Feng Shui, a mirror is called a doubling glass. Whatever it faces, it feeds. It's like giving a microphone to the loudest energy in the room. If that energy is beauty, harmony, flow, perfect. But if it's tension, stagnation, or emotional weight, you just gave it more power. It's not that your home is chaotic. It's that your mirror keeps reminding it that it is. You might be thinking, but it's a beautiful mirror. I love that spot. And that's okay. Just check what it's feeding. What is your mirror facing every single day? And would you choose to multiply that? If your mirror is facing a stressful corner, a stack of bills, or even a memory that still hurts, try shifting it, turn it slightly, or cover it for a few days. Observe the shift. You can also place a soft plant, a flowy curtain, or a peaceful object between the mirror and the tension. Let it reflect relief, and not repeat chaos. Because in energy, whatever you mirror, you magnify. And whatever you magnify shapes your reality. So if your mirror is feeding the wrong energy, what happens when it faces the most important energy point of your entire home? That's where we're going next. Mistake 4. The front door reflection equals energy turned away. Of all the places a mirror can sit, facing the front door is the most dangerous, because in Feng Shui, your front door is not just an entry point. It is the mouth of Qi, the gate through which energy, fortune, and opportunity enter your life. Now imagine this. Every time good energy tries to enter, it sees itself and gets bounced back. Feng Shui teaches that mirrors facing the front door don't welcome energy. They repel it. They reflect it right back. Ease out the door. And science agrees. In spatial psychology, a reflection at the main entrance creates a perception loop. The message, nothing moves forward here. It's like knocking on a door and being shown yourself instead of being invited in. One client, Madison, he had a beautiful mirror hanging directly across from her front door. She said her job interviews kept falling through. Clients wouldn't follow up. And she always felt like she was just missing something. We removed the mirror. Nothing else. Within weeks, she got 2 new contracts. She told me, "It finally feels like people are finding me again." A mirror facing your front door. It is like turning your palm outward. When someone offers you a gift, you don't receive it. You don't grab it. You say unintentionally, "Not now." It's not that abundance forgot you. It's that your space has been saying, "Please don't come in." You might be thinking, "But I love that mirror. It makes the space look bigger." And that's okay. But energy doesn't care about style. It cares about welcome. Stand at your front door. Look inside. What's the first thing energy sees? When it arrives, does it feel invited or deflected? If you love the light the mirror brings, you don't have to remove it completely. Try angling it slightly so it reflects a wall, a plant, or something still and soft, not the door itself. You can also cover it with a lightweight fabric during high energy moments, job interviews, big conversations, important days. Let the mirror know, "This is a moment I want to receive." It doesn't have to go away. It just needs to step back. Because in energy, what you face, you call in. What you block stays out. And sometimes, the most powerful shift starts with simply letting the door stay open. But what if the mirror isn't near the door at all? Yet somehow, it still makes you feel you watched, judged, exposed. Some mirrors don't push energy out. They pull your piece inward and fracture it. Let's go there next. Mistake 5. The private mirror equals the energy that can't rest. Not all energy wants to be seen. Some of it needs to settle, to soften, to rest. And when a mirror lives in a space meant for healing, straight, like your bedroom or your bathroom, it can disturb that stillness by constantly reflecting it back. A mirror near your bed doesn't just show your sleep. It chases it. It interrupts it. It pulls your energy outward. When your body is trying to go inward, sleep psychologists have found that visual stimulation, even passive reflections, can activate the brain's alert system. When your mirror catches hallway light, phone glow, or even your own movement in bed, your subconscious stays half awake, always watching, always guarding, and your energy never fully drops in. A man once told me, "I wake up tired, even after 8 hours." His bedroom had one mirror, across from the bed, not large, just placed there. When we covered it with a soft sheer cloth, he messaged 2 days later, "I didn't know I needed that." It's the first time I felt like I wasn't being watched by my own life. In Feng Shui, we like a mirror in a place of rest. It is like placing a spotlight in a meditation room. It doesn't matter how beautiful it looks. It keeps the energy awake. It interrupts exhale. It's not that you're bad at resting. It's that your space won't stop reflecting what you're trying to let go. You may be thinking, but I like how it opens the room. And that's valid. But if your space feels restless, the mirror might be why. Where do you go to retreat? And is there anything in that space that keeps pulling you back into alert? If your mirror lives in a place where you're supposed to rest, I'll try this. Cover it with natural fabric at night. Use light filtering film or redirect it to reflect calm. A wall, a plant, and a soft light. Not your bed, not your body. Let your space know, this is where I stop performing. This is where I rest. Because in a world of constant reflection, the most powerful shift might be to turn the mirror around. So maybe it's not just the mirror in your space. Maybe it's the mirror in your life. Let's breathe that in. As we close this loop, you can fix the mirror, but what about the space that holds it? Because some rooms look still, but carry tension in silence. Some beds look soft, but never let your energy fully land. And rest, real rest, it doesn't begin with the body, it begins with the space. Some nights, you don't fall asleep. You dissolve into a space that forgets to hold you. There's no shape behind your head, no frame, no presence, only the silence of a wall that never meant to carry you. You thought you were resting, but the weight you released, he had nowhere to land. So it lingers in your breath, in your spine, in the dreams that never root. In Feng Shui, a headboard is not a decoration. It's protection. It's what your body leans on, even when your mind has let go. Without it, your rest has no edge, no contour, no boundary between you and everything else. You might fall asleep, but part of you stays awake, quietly scanning, not because of fear, but because nothing tells you you're safe enough to stop. That's what a headboard does. It tells your energy, you can land here. A client once told me, I thought I was just getting used to the new space, but every morning I woke up already exhausted, like my sleep had no depth, no ground, nothing that held me through the night. When I asked about her bed, she pointed to a neatly made mattress, pushed right up against a bare wall. No headboard, no support, just a picture-perfect order on top of an invisible emptiness. Her body may have been still, but her energy field wasn't. With no anchor, the energy couldn't gather. With no support, her sleep couldn't go deep. You know what's strange? I didn't feel unsafe. Not really. The room was quiet. The bed was made. The sheets were soft. But I still woke up tired. Every morning, like I'd only floated through the night, never landed. Turns out, your brain can't fully rest. If the space behind you is empty, it's hardwired to look for shelter, to find edges, to know how this is my back and it's covered. But when your head has no support, when there's just a wall and nothing else, your body might lie down, but your nervous system keeps watch, just a little, barely enough to notice, but just enough to keep you hovering. You think you've slept, but you haven't settled. You think you've rested, but your healing, it never really began. Your bedroom may look peaceful, quiet, clean, still, but peace doesn't live in appearances. It lives in structure, in the things that hold you when you're not looking, in the silent scaffolding that lets your softness fall and stay. Because softness, without something to land on, just floats. And floating isn't resting. And resting, without support, is just pause, not healing. The first mistake? No headboard means no support. But the deeper truth? No support means no surrender. And without surrender, your nervous system never truly lets go. Your body never fully trusts the space. And your spirit keeps hovering at the edges of home. Healing doesn't begin with silence. It begins with feeling held enough to fall into it. Some nights, you feel watched, even in silence, even with the door locked. Something in the room won't close its eyes. You try to sleep, but your reflection sleeps with you, not beside you, but across from you, doubling your presence, splitting your stillness. And somehow, your dreams feel crowded, like someone else is echoing them back. In Feng Shui, mirrors are not passive. They bounce, they double, they capture and return. When a mirror faces your bed, it reflects your energy at your most vulnerable state. The moment your body lets go, your reflection holds on, and instead of resting, your chi circles, your stillness loops, your release refracts. There is no still point when your energy keeps meeting its own ghost. A client once told me, I didn't realize the mirror was the problem. It was beautiful, antique, gold-framed, right across the bed. She decorated it with intention. It looked perfect. But every night, she woke up between 3 and 4 a.m. Not from sound, not from nightmares, just disruption. It wasn't until she covered the mirror with a soft fabric one night that she slept through till morning. She didn't change her routine, only the direction. Her energy had been ricocheting back to her. The nervous system craves simplicity at night. Stillness, darkness, safety. But a mirror, even when quiet, adds movement. Your subconscious can register light flickers, subtle reflections, even when your eyes are closed. And for sensitive sleepers, this creates micro-alertness. Your body isn't fully tense, but it isn't fully trusting either. Sleep becomes shallow. Dreams become fragmented, and the brain, instead of dropping into repair mode, stays scanning. Your bed is not a stage. It doesn't need an audience, not even a quiet one. And your sleep, it doesn't need to be witnessed. It needs to be held. Mirrors reflect light. They reflect form, but they also reflect energy. So when your bed faces one, your rest is never alone. Your energy never lands. It bounces back and forth, back and forth. Cover it, move it, shift it, because the most restful sleep is the one that stays entirely yours. You turn off the lights. You silence the room. But something, Eva, still hums. A whisper beneath your breath. A pulse behind your spine. Like the space is. Awake. You're lying still. But something near you isn't. A screen that glows. A device still pulsing. And your rest, soft as it tries to be, can't drop into the dark. In Feng Shui, all rest requires stillness, not just of the body, but of the field around it. Electronics carry charge, not just function, but frequency. When they stay close to the bed, chargers, phones, routers, TVs, your chi doesn't soften. It stays wired. It hums beneath the surface. Even on airplane mode, your space remembers stimulation. Energy doesn't fully land. When the air around it is buzzing, sleep is surrender. But static keeps it suspended. One man told me, I stopped charging my phone beside the bed. That's it. That was the only change. He didn't expect anything. But after a few nights, he said something strange. I didn't just sleep longer. I dreamed again. Not scrolling dreams. Not fragmented static, but real ones. The kind that land and take you somewhere. What he didn't realize was, before that, if he wasn't sleeping, he was just powering down, not healing, just pausing. The human body communicates in frequencies. The heart, the brain, the cells that repair while you sleep. Electronic devices emit EMFs, electromagnetic fields, that disrupt these subtle signals. Not enough to shock, but enough to interfere. Studies show phones by the bed lower melatonin, reduce REM sleep, agitate the brain's night rhythms, even in standby mode. And the result? Your body sleeps in a room that never fully quiets. Your healing gets delayed by the hum you can't hear. You may not hear the interference, but your body feels it in the way your shoulders stay tense, the way your jaw stays wired, the way you wake unfinished. Your bed should be a field of zero noise, not in volume, but in frequency. So move the phone, unplug the charger, power down the room before you power down yourself. Because the stillest sleep all happens in silence, not just of sound, but of charge. You lie in bed, but you don't feel alone, not because anyone is there, but because something in you is waiting. A tension you can't name, a pulse that doesn't soften. Your body tries to rest, but your awareness keeps reaching toward the door you can't see. In Feng Shui, the door is the mouth of qi. It's where energy enters and where threat might too. When your bed doesn't face the door, when you sleep without seeing it, your system stays alert, not in panic, but in quiet vigilance. Your back is turned to possibility, and your qi sleeps sideways, without a clear line to the entrance. Your rest floats. It waits. It listens. Because your body doesn't trust what it can't track. A woman once said to me, "I always woke at the slightest sound. A car, a creak, even my cat jumping down." She thought it was just her nature until she moved the bed. She didn't realize her bed had been angled away from the door. For years, no line of sight, no sense of what's coming. She turned it so she could see the door while lying down. And for the first time, she didn't hear the house at night, because her body finally stopped listening. The human brain is wired to seek exits. It's primal. It's ancient. It's survival. Not seeing the door creates low-grade spatial anxiety, a state where the brain stays in mild anticipation, not alert enough to wake you, but just enough to keep you in lighter sleep, more movement, less repair, more dreams, fewer dreams that settle. This isn't superstition, it's neurology. Your nervous system maps the room every night. And when the door is behind you, it doesn't draw a map. It draws a question mark. Even in silence, your body listens. Even in darkness, your field scans. So place the bed where your eyes can greet the entrance. Not in fear, but in presence, in knowing, in calm. Because sleep is not just rest, it's release. And release only happens when nothing in you is wondering who might walk in. You think you're sleeping above it, but you're not. The old boxes, the forgotten clothes, the things you didn't want to deal with yet, they're not just beneath your bed, they're beneath your rest. And every night, as your body lets go, your energy lies down on all that weight. You wonder why you wake up heavy, but your sleep has been lying on memories you never cleared. In Feng Shui, your bed is sacred. It's where qi should move smoothly beneath you. I like breath. But when you store things under the bed, you block the flow. You don't just stop energy. you trap it. And worse, you trap yourself into it. Old paperwork, shoeboxes of things unsaid, emotions in the form of clutter. Your body may rise each morning, but your field stays knotted to the weight below. A client once told me, I had nowhere else to put them. The documents, the photos, the things from that part of my life. So she slid them under her bed, tucked away, out of sight. But every morning, she woke up tired, not physically, just tired of herself. One day, she cleared the space, moved everything out. She cried. She slept. She dreamed. She said, it was like I'd been sharing my sleep with a version of me I no longer needed to carry. The mind tracks space, even the space we don't look at. Studies show clutter increases cortisol, raises background stress. Even out-of-sight clutter creates subconscious noise. The body feels it. The nervous system senses compression, and your sleep, instead of floating, rests on a grid of unresolved things. This isn't just untidiness. It's energetic imprint. Your body knows when it isn't sleeping free. Your bed is where your soul goes to soften. It needs breath beneath it, stillness beneath it, space beneath it. So, clear the boxes, clear the weight, clear the stories you thought you'd hidden. Because your dreams, you can't stretch. If your sleep is boxed in and no softness can land on top of stuckness, even if your sleep is deep, energy doesn't begin in the bedroom. It begins at the door. And some homes, these look beautiful inside, but have forgotten how to say, come in. Because the way energy enters shapes everything that follows. You don't have to slam a door to keep something out. Sometimes, just not clearing the path to it is enough. We think rejection is loud, but in truth, it can be silent, covered in leaves, stacked in shoes, hidden behind cardboard boxes you meant to throw away months ago. That's how opportunities disappear. Not with drama, but with distance. They see the tangled walkway, the forgotten welcome mat, and they hesitate, not because they don't love you, but because they don't feel invited. Energy is shy like that. It listens to the silence before the knock. And if your path whispers, not now, it turns away like a bird that never lands. Because what can't approach won't arrive. And what doesn't feel welcomed will stop trying to come back. A blocked path isn't just physical. It's emotional, it's spiritual. It says, maybe I don't believe good things are on their way. And the universe listens. In Feng Shui, the space that leads to your front door is known as the Ming Tang, the bright hall where Qi first gathers before deciding to enter. It's not just a walkway, it's the first conversation your home has with the universe. When this space is open, clean, and cared for, energy lingers, like a guest who knows they're welcome. But when it's blocked, narrow, cluttered, or shadowed, Qi stutters. It pauses. It questions whether it should come in at all. A cracked path, a sagging doormat, a pile of forgotten shoes. These are not just messes. They are messages. Subtle signals that say, "Not yet. I'm not ready. I've stopped expecting beauty." And so energy listens and obeys. Because the door doesn't open into your house, it opens into your field, your mind, your life's receptivity. A blocked Mingtang isn't just an energetic misstep, it's an unspoken belief that goodness must stay on the other side. Imagine a dear friend comes to visit. They bring warmth, good news, maybe even healing. But when they arrive, they see a narrow walkway, a tilted trash bin, weeds, and forgotten packages. They pause, not because they don't care, but because they're not sure. If you want to be seen, energy is that friend. It reads your environment like body language. And clutter even accidental whispers, "Please don't come too close." So the friend turns back quietly, still holding the gift they brought, not in anger, but in respect. Modern studies in environmental psychology have revealed a truth Feng Shui has long understood, that the spaces we pass through first hold a disproportionate influence on our mental and emotional state. When the entryway is cluttered, crowded, or dimly lit, it sends stress signals to the brain. Even before we consciously register them, our nervous system is wired for survival, and a blocked path, even in a modern home, registers as an obstacle, a threat, a reason to stay alert. This means, even before you remove your shoes, your body is already bracing. Repeated exposure to disordered thresholds trains the brain to associate coming home with tension, not relief, with task mode, not rest mode. Over time, this creates a loop of subtle avoidance. You enter faster, leave faster, and begin skipping the entry entirely. The place that should gather you back becomes the place you emotionally glide over, never truly landing. It doesn't just affect visitors, it shapes your inner state. Because healing begins at the edge, where your breath meets the door, where your home says, "You're safe now." So the next time you come home, pause not to unlock the door, but to feel the space that leads you there. Does it feel like an invitation or a hesitation? Because energy doesn't push, it responds. It lands where it's welcomed. Every blessing, every breakthrough, he needs somewhere to land. And that landing begins at the threshold. You're not broken. You've just forgotten how to expect good things. But the path can be cleared. The message can change. And energy will return. Because the journey of Qi doesn't end at the door. It begins there. And sometimes what pushes energy away isn't outside, but waiting just behind the frame. Let's take one step further inside, because the next mistake, he might already be hiding in your hallway. Not all darkness is dramatic. Sometimes it's soft, the kind that gathers dust. in corners no one notices. The kind that lives near the door but never greets you. The kind that doesn't shout but whispers, "Nothing beautiful happens here." You don't need a broken bulb to feel unseen. You just need the absence of warmth, the absence of care. Because energy, like people, doesn't stay where it doesn't feel celebrated. And light doesn't rise where no one ever opens the blinds. In Feng Shui, the entry is the mouth of Kai, but it's also the first filter through which energy decides what kind of space it's walking into. When this area is dark, neglected, or emotionally empty, it becomes a signal there is no vitality here. Qi responds not only to form, but to feeling. And darkness isn't just a lack of light, it's a presence of disconnection. If your entrance is dim, unloved, unlit, it slowly becomes a barrier to life force, a shadow that stretches inward, quietly dulling every corner of the home. Imagine walking into someone's home. The entry is cold. The lights are off. No scent, no sound, no signs of life. You hesitate, even if the rest of the house is beautiful, because the first few seconds tell you everything. Energy does the same. It doesn't wait to be impressed. It decides at the door whether it wants to stay, whether you care enough to make the space feel like a beginning, not just a passage. Neuroscience shows that light directly affects mood, memory, and motivation. Dim, uncared for spaces can lower serotonin levels, increase fatigue, and subtly reinforce feelings of invisibility. In healing work, the doorway is symbolic. It represents transition, initiation, the threshold between who you've been and who you're becoming. But when that threshold is shrouded in shadow, so is your inner permission to grow. A dark entryway doesn't just block energy, it blocks becoming. It says, "I'm not ready for the light," and healing waits at the door. You don't have to renovate. You don't have to repaint. Sometimes, just one light left on by the door is enough to tell the world, "I am home and I am open." Because energy arrives where light is kept, where life is honored, where someone, even just you, remembers to leave a little brightness for the soul returning home. Sometimes the room is quiet, but something still feels off. A flicker, a tilt, a barely there vibration, like the space is holding its breath, waiting for something to go wrong. And you feel it, not with your eyes, but with your chest. That overhead light that hums too loud or swings just slightly like a question mark above your life. We call it just a light. But our bodies don't think that way. They read every flicker as a warning, every tilt as a lack of care, every hum as a signal. Be alert. In Feng Shui, overhead lighting at the entry is deeply symbolic. It governs the heavenly energy, what flows from above into your life path. A crooked, flickering, or unstable light disrupts the energetic clarity of your home's welcome. It creates what's called chaotic chi, invisible turbulence that scatters focus, disorients the flow of intention, and subtly tells the universe, this home is not in alignment, because light from above isn't just for seeing, it's for setting tone, establishing sacred order, calling in harmony from the first second of arrival. Imagine stepping into a hotel lobby. The ceiling lamp is crooked. The chandelier blinks every few seconds. Would you trust the rest of the building? Now imagine this is your home, and the first thing you and energy see is something unstable, unattended, off balance. It doesn't matter how beautiful the rest is. That one light sets the tone, and your body feels it like the brain catches background noise, even when you try to ignore it. Research shows that subtle environmental disruptions, like flickering lights or asymmetry, can trigger low-grade anxiety, increase cortisol levels, and compromise the nervous system's ability to fully down-regulate. This is especially true at entry points, where the brain expects predictable signals of safety. When those signals are off, even slightly, the body shifts into micro-alert mode, and it builds over days, over weeks, until coming home no longer feels relaxing, but unconsciously unsettling. In healing practice, this is known as nervous imprinting, where the body remembers what the mind ignores. So straighten the light, replace the flicker, silence the hum, not for appearance, but for peace, because the body notices everything. And when your space says steady, your soul finally believes it's okay to rest. Your home doesn't have to be perfect, but it should feel aligned. And the most powerful way to invite calm isn't silence, it's stability. Let's keep moving forward, because what's next isn't hanging in the air, but lurking just underfoot. Sometimes, the most powerful message is the one we step over. You don't think much about the doormat, but it's the first thing the world touches. Before it touches you, the first surface where energy makes contact. And what does it feel? A mat that's frayed, faded, soaked in yesterday's dust. A space that says, come in, I guess, but don't expect to feel welcomed. You may not notice it anymore, but your nervous system does. And so does the universe. Because even stillness sends a signal. Even silence has tone. In Feng Shui, the doormat is part of the entry portal, not just a place to wipe shoes, but a symbolic membrane between the outer world and your inner life. It holds energetic memory. It tells incoming ki what kind of space it's about to enter. When the mat is clean, clear, and intentionally placed, it acts like a gentle handshake, welcoming, grounding, affirming. But when it's worn, dirty, or neglected, it becomes an energetic repellent, a soft boundary that says, this space isn't tended, This energy isn't cared for. Energy, like people, notices when it's invited versus when it's tolerated. And the mat is the message. Imagine arriving at someone's home. You ring the bell. You look down and see a mat that's torn, discolored, with no warmth, no welcome, just fatigue. You feel it instantly, that sense of being received half-heartedly, as if you're intruding, as if your presence is an afterthought. And you carry that feeling inside, even before a single word is said. Energy does exactly the same. It notices the quality of the threshold, because the first step sets the tone for the entire journey. Subtle cues in the environment, especially at transition points, are known to prime emotional state. The brain registers a cue like a clean versus dirty mat and immediately assigns meaning, safety, and worth. A neglected doormat reinforces a subconscious narrative. This place is not maintained. This boundary isn't honored. This isn't a safe threshold. Over time, this creates cognitive weariness, a low-level unease that chips away at your ability to fully arrive, fully land, fully belong in your own space. In somatic healing, the feet are symbolic of grounding, of belonging, of moving forward. So when the very first thing they step on is unstable or unpleasant, healing falters before it even begins. You don't need a luxury rug. You just need to say, "This threshold matters," and let your care be visible from the ground up. Because how you greet the world is how the world greets you back. And sometimes the most powerful shifts begin beneath your feet. So look down, clean the mat, replace it if you must. Let it say what your soul has always meant. "Welcome, I've been waiting for you." That's what the mat should say. "Welcome, I've been waiting for you." But then you look up and the next thing you see isn't warmth. It isn't softness. It's your own reflection, cold, flat, immediate. You've barely stepped in, and already you're being turned back. Sometimes what repels doesn't slam, it reflects. A mirror facing the entry doesn't scream, it returns. Before energy can settle, before your presence can even land, it meets itself and gets sent away. This mirror, quiet, pretty, unbothered, becomes the most elegant rejection. A smile with no embrace. A doorway with no depth, because when a home reflects instead of receiving, what arrives never stays. Not peace, not prosperity, not you. In classical Feng Shui, a mirror directly facing the front door is one of the most disruptive placements. The main entrance is the mouth of Ku, the very beginning of energy's journey into the home. But a mirror here reflects that energy immediately, sending it back outside before it can circulate. This creates energetic deflection. Good fortune can't land. Opportunities pass by. The home feels unsettled, like nothing ever really stays. Instead of grounding the space, the energy escapes it. Imagine someone finally opens up to you. They step in emotionally. They try to share, to connect, but you reflect everything back. You mirror their words, their tone. Without receiving, without softening, they leave feeling unseen, unheld, like they were never truly let in. That's what a mirror does at the entry. It reflects, but never receives. It bounces, but never absorbs. And energy, like people, needs to be received, to stay. Neurologically, the brain scans entry points for cues of safety. A mirror placed directly across the door creates visual distortion, splits focus, and confuses spatial orientation. This sends subtle stress signals to the nervous system, like walking toward openness, but being bounced back. Therapeutic design confirms mirrored surfaces at transitional zones can trigger overstimulation, disorientation, and a subconscious feeling of being unwelcome. In Feng Shui terms, if Qi can't enter and settle, neither can peace. Neither can you. So take a moment. Look again at your entry. Is a mirror the first thing you see, or the first thing that sees you? And what does it reflect back? An invitation or a return to the outside? Reposition the glass. Let energy arrive without being sent away. Let presence land. Let abundance breathe. Because the way you shape your entrance is the way you shape your beginning. And that is what all 5 of these mistakes have in common. They don't scream, they don't shout, they whisper subtly, quietly, that you're not ready, that you don't believe something good is on its way. But the moment you notice them, or really notice them, everything begins to shift. Because in Feng Shui, awareness is action, and the energy you invite in starts with the space you're willing to open. Welcoming energy in is only the beginning, because once it enters, where does it go? Some homes block the flow, not at the door, but just a few steps beyond it. Not with walls, but with piles, with objects that hold too much history, with corners that haven't moved in years. Energy doesn't just arrive. It needs room to continue. You don't mean to forget the corners. No one ever does. But somehow, they fall off the edge of your attention. You walk past them on the way to what matters. You don't look at them because they don't ask to be seen. But still, they wait. Dust gathers slowly, like silence that doesn't leave, like a conversation that was never finished, because someone changed the subject. That clutter, it's not loud. It's not even ugly. It just stays. So maybe it's not the big messes that keep you stuck. Maybe it's the spaces you forgot you gave up on, the corners that stopped asking, the objects that learned to stay quiet, the breath you didn't know you stopped holding. But here's the truth. Energy doesn't wait for chaos to break. It responds to stillness just the same. So when a space has no voice, no purpose, no movement, it becomes something heavier than mess. It becomes memory. And memory, when left unmoved, turns into weight. But this is just the beginning. Because not all clutter hides in corners. Some of it stands in plain sight. Right under your hands. Right where your body rests. But your energy can't. And the longer it stays, the more it becomes a part of you. Because when you stop seeing something, it doesn't stop shaping you. Energy remembers the places we stop caring for, and it holds the weight of what we've put down without ever putting it to rest. In Feng Shui, a corner is never just a corner. It's where energy folds inward, where stillness becomes storage, where breath forgets to move. When we leave these spaces untouched, when dust becomes familiar, when objects sit too long without purpose, when no light reaches the floor, the chi doesn't just pause, it closes in, and slowly that space stops breathing, not like a gasp, but like a long-held breath you didn't know you were holding. The air becomes dense, the walls stop echoing, and something inside you starts bracing. You tell yourself the room is clean, but your nervous system knows. It feels the gap, the block, the unfinished flow. Because energy has rhythm, and when it can't complete its circle, it spirals, it pools, it leaks into the quiet parts of your life where you're trying to feel light again. Clutter in a forgotten corner isn't just a pile of things. It's more like a sentence you meant to finish, but didn't. A drawer you half opened, then walked away from. A thought you pushed aside because you didn't have time to feel what it was asking. It sits there, still, but not silent, because energy, like memory, doesn't need noise to persist. And the corner, it holds that memory of something paused, not lost, of something delayed, not gone, like a book left open on a chapter yet cannot tear. You were afraid to read, like a chair in the hallway that was never meant to stay there, but did. You stop noticing it, but your body doesn't. You shift your path without knowing. You breathe differently when passing it. And one day you realize you've been navigating around what you never meant to keep. Some things feel soft, but quietly pull us down. A pillow that no longer lifts your neck, but you keep it because it once comforted you. On a night you cried alone. A blanket that's too warm, but still wrapped around you because someone once gave it to you when you felt cold on the inside. A chair that holds the shape of your old self and somehow won't let the new you sit quite right. We don't call it clutter because it looks like love, like memory, like safety. But sometimes what once saved you no longer serves you, And the softness you trusted becomes a quiet kind of weight, the kind that doesn't hurt, but doesn't let you rise either. In Feng Shui, resting isn't just about stillness. It's about what meets you when you let your body go. The chair, the bed, the blanket across your legs. They're not passive. They're listening, and over time, what they've absorbed starts speaking back. That pillow you collapse into at the end of the day, it remembers. That chair that's molded to your shape, it's carrying your weight in more ways than one. These things, they reflect how you've been holding yourself. And when they're too old, too sunken, too saturated with the energy of before, they no longer support the you that's healing now. Your body may feel familiar in them, but your chi, it's struggling to rise. Because chi doesn't just need stillness, it needs movement. It needs renewal. It needs to be met, not absorbed. And when comfort becomes storage for old energy, rest becomes repetition. Sleep becomes stagnation. And you begin to carry what was never meant to stay. It's like staying in a relationship just because it once felt safe. Like returning to a home where your name is still on the door, but your spirit no longer fits the walls. That old chair, it knew how to hold the you, who didn't yet believe you deserved better. And so you stayed. Not because it's right now, but because it was right once. We do this with people, with habits, and yes, with furniture. We sit in what no longer holds us because we've grown used to the shape of settling. But the truth is, you can't rise from a place that's designed to keep you still. The body holds memory even when the mind forgets. When you rest in a space where grief once sat, where burnout lived for months, where you once held your breath just to keep going, your nervous system remembers. It's not just the softness, it's the signal. Studies show that the objects we interact with daily become emotional anchors. They tie your current state to an outdated version of yourself. Without asking permission, you lie down, hoping for rest, but your system goes into recall. Not sleep, not renewal, but a loop of silent tension. Your body has been practicing for years. This is why change feels hard, because part of you is still trying to heal in an environment where the wound was never named. So maybe it's time to ask the soft things. Are you still supporting who I am, or just who I used to be? Because in healing, even comfort must evolve. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for your body is to let go of what once held it well. There. But not all clutter sits beneath you. Some of it lives above, on walls, on hangers, in things that sway when nothing else is moving, and they speak too. Some things never land. They hang, they float, they linger, long after they've lost meaning. Like a coat you never wear, but still hangs near the door. Like wind chimes that haven't sung in years. Like a curtain that never opens, but blocks the morning anyway. These are the pieces of your home that move, even when your life doesn't. They sway, they shift, they create motion where stillness was needed. And the result? Your energy forgets where to settle. In Feng Shui, objects that hang without grounding, without purpose, create energetic static. They disrupt the natural flow of qi, confusing the rhythm of up and down, rest and rise. Curtains that block light, clothes you no longer wear, decor that spins in every breeze. They keep your space in motion, but not in movement. It's like energetic noise, always there, always shifting, never allowing the space to truly exhale. And when energy floats, without direction, you feel it in your thoughts, in your tension, in your inability to land. It's like being in a conversation where someone keeps changing the subject. You can't settle. You can't go deep. You're pulled into something shallow again. That's what hanging clutter does. It pulls your senses into low-level alert, like a whisper that never stops, like eyes that keep searching but don't know what for. You stop noticing the movement, but your mind doesn't. It keeps tracking, keeps adjusting, and it leaves you just a little more tired than you should be. Environmental psychology shows that constant micro movements in your field of vision can trigger low-grade stress. Not panic, not alarm, just the kind of tension that makes deep focus harder, that keeps your nervous system scanning instead of resting. Even visual noise, especially the kind that blends in, can tax your clarity over time. Your brain doesn't just see, it interacts, it responds. And when it keeps responding to things that don't belong anymore, your energy stays fragmented. So maybe the question isn't, does this still look good here? Maybe it's, does this help my energy land? Because healing space isn't just about letting light in, it's about letting stillness in too. And sometimes, the most powerful change comes from what you take down. Because not all clutter is hanging. Some of it hides. In drawers, in boxes, in the things you've tucked away, but still carry in your field. Some things don't take up space. They take up breath. Like the box in the back of your closet, you keep just in case. Like the drawer you haven't opened in months, but feel every time you walk by. This is the clutter you don't see, but still carry. The memories you packed away, but never made peace with. The clothes that no longer fit, but still whisper who you used to be. You tell yourself, it's not in the way, but your energy knows it's never really left. In Feng Shui, hidden clutter holds hidden tension. The moment something is stored, Without intention, its energy becomes stagnant. A drawer filled with later. A box packed with what if. A cabinet that hums with the echo of avoidance. These places don't just hold objects. They hold unresolved emotion, unspoken endings, versions of you that you're still not ready to release. And as long as it's held, chi cannot flow clean. It loops. It gets caught. It settles in the corners of your awareness and becomes weight, not physical, but real. It's like having a conversation you keep postponing, but never stop rehearsing in your head. That's what hidden clutter is. A loop, a quiet rerun of what you haven't finished feeling. You're not touching it, but it's touching you. It shapes your decisions. It slows your movement. It ties invisible threads, one ESO, USO, from one drawer to your sense of peace. And every time you say, "I'll deal with that later," you make a silent agreement to carry it one more day. Studies in somatic psychology show that the brain links location with unresolved emotion, which means that drawer you avoid, your nervous system doesn't. It remembers. It adjusts. It subtly contracts every time you get close. Even unopened storage can keep the body in a low state of vigilance because your energy knows what you're not ready to release. And energy held too long hardens, becomes emotional scar tissue, invisible but felt, in the way you move, decide, and breathe. So maybe the drawer isn't just a drawer. Maybe it's a boundary you haven't dared to cross. A box isn't just a box. It's a page you never turned, a goodbye you never said. And the healing doesn't come from throwing everything away, but from asking, "Am I ready to let this go for good?" Because freedom doesn't come when the space is empty. It comes when the energy is no longer tied. But some clutter isn't even in your drawers. It's in plain sight, disguised as beauty, as decor, as things you love, but that no longer love you back. Not all clutter looks messy. Some of it looks like love, like a photo you don't look at anymore, but still dust. A vase that holds no flowers, but holds a memory you're not ready to rearrange. A gift you didn't choose, but feel too guilty to let go. These are the things, that sit in the open, but carry the weight of what's unspoken. They shine. They sparkle. They match the room, but your energy knows they don't match you anymore. In Feng Shui, objects in plain sight are the loudest carriers of energy. They speak every time you walk by, every time your eyes land, every time your heart remembers. When these objects no longer align with your current self, they don't just decorate the room. They confuse the chi. It's like a conversation between the past and the present, happening on your bookshelf without your consent. And that kind of energetic noise makes it harder for new energy to enter. Because beauty without resonance becomes distortion. It's like listening to your favorite song on repeat, long after the meaning has changed. The melody is still there, but your body reacts differently now. You flinch at the chorus. You skip the part that used to feel like home. That's what emotional clutter does. It holds you in a moment you've already grown beyond. And the more you keep it close, the harder it is to hear what your life is really asking for next. Neuroscience shows that visual stimuli with emotional memory can subtly hijack your focus and mood. Even small objects with unresolved emotional ties activate micro-associations, keeping you mentally tethered to outdated identities. Your brain doesn't just see a souvenir, it relives what it meant, what it should have meant, what it never became. And that constant reactivation costs clarity, focus, peace. So maybe it's not about whether something is beautiful, but whether it still reflects the beauty in you now. Because your space is not a museum, it's a mirror, and it deserves to show the version of you that's here to heal, not the one still waiting to be chosen. And the truth is, most people don't live in chaos. They live in subtle weight, in beauty that no longer breathes, in clarity just out of reach. But when you start listening, your home begins to speak back. Not all blockages look like mess. Some grow tall, some reach for the light, some wear green. But even beauty, when misplaced or left unchecked, can hold stagnant energy. Because sometimes it's not what you've kept, but what you've let keep growing long after its season has passed. Not all growth is rooted in care. Some things grow because no one noticed they shouldn't. They start small, a leaf reaching for light, a vine curling along the wall, and you let it. Because it looked alive. Because green meant good. But what grows without question soon forgets its place. It begins to take the window, blur the corners, drown the shape of the room in something that feels consuming. And one day, you step back and realize you haven't exhaled fully in weeks. In Feng Shui, growth is not just about height or leaves. It's about rhythm. A plant that grows in harmony, it mirrors your breath. It expands gently. It pauses. It listens to the light, the same way your nervous system listens to silence. But when it grows without pause, without form, it no longer lives with you. It begins to speak over the room. It draws your eyes, not because it's beautiful, but because it's loud. You start avoiding that corner. You feel pulled to tidy things that weren't messy. You move slower. You sleep less deeply. Because something around you is expanding, while you're trying to hold yourself together. In Feng Shui, this is a shift in vibration, from support to overwhelm, from harmony to invasion, from presence to pressure. And the worst part, it looks like life, but it feels like suffocation. Because the space meant to hold you is now held by something else. It's like that one habit you picked up during a hard season. It helped at first. It made things easier. It gave shape to the empty. So you kept it. Even after the season passed, even after you grew, and slowly it stopped being a habit and started becoming a wall. It wrapped around your mornings, took over your rituals. It filled your time before you had a chance to decide how you actually wanted to live. One day you look around and realize there's no space left that wasn't shaped by that one thing. If you never meant to grow this far, your nervous system, it wasn't designed to filter out everything at once. It's constantly scanning for light, for threat, for softness, for edges. So when a plant takes over a room, when it spills across corners, blocks windows, interrupts the geometry of space, your body doesn't just see green, it sees noise, subtle noise, beautiful noise, but still something it must manage. Researchers call this visual load the cumulative weight of too many signals asking for attention. And the cost? It's not panic, it's not obvious. It's the low hum of always needing to adjust. It's why you sigh more often than you speak, why you avoid that corner without knowing why. Because your body has been negotiating with the plants on your behalf, and now it's tired. You don't have to let everything grow. Not every leaf needs to reach. Not every vine needs a wall. Some things are healthier when they're held, when they're pruned, when they're reminded, oh, that expansion, it is not the only form of life. Sometimes peace, it is not in the growth, but in the grace of knowing when to stop. And just because something looks alive doesn't mean it's helping you live. Which brings us to the next kind of silence, the kind that settles in your space when something isn't quite dead, but has stopped thriving a long time ago. It's still upright, still shaped like life, but there's no pulse in the leaves, no stretch toward the light, just stillness, the kind that settles when a thing has stopped trying but hasn't been let go. You keep walking past it, telling yourself, maybe tomorrow, but it hasn't asked for water in days, and your fingers stopped checking the soil. Because somewhere deep down, you've already accepted it's leaving. You just haven't said it out loud. So it stays, like a breath held too long, not quite gone, but no longer becoming, just waiting for someone to name the ending. In Feng Shui, energy doesn't vanish. It lingers, especially when something is in between, not blooming, not decaying, just paused. And in that pause, the qi doesn't flow forward. It circles. It waits. It grows dense. It's like air that's forgotten how to move. A plant that has stopped thriving doesn't just sit there. It pulls. It draws energy inward, not to grow, but to hold in what was meant to move. And slowly, you begin to sync with its rhythm. You take longer to make decisions. You pause before entering that room. You lose momentum, not from exhaustion, but from subtle, steady absorption. Because you're living near something that's no longer alive, but hasn't let go. And now, neither have you. It's like the version of yourself you kept alive, just to not disappoint anyone. You dressed it, spoke through it, let it smile when you were tired. And after a while, it stopped asking to evolve. It just learned how to survive. No hunger, no wonder, just presence. Enough to not raise concern. And because it wasn't broken, you never tried to heal it. You just let it sit, be like an old plant in the corner, too familiar to remove, too faded to revive. So you work around it, decorate beside it, tell yourself, maybe one day I'll feel ready. But deep down, you know, it already said goodbye. You're just the one, still holding on. Your body knows. When something is no longer alive, even when your mind still calls it familiar, a dying plant, with its sagging posture, its brittle edges, is more than visual clutter. It's a message your nervous system receives, over and over. This space is not renewing itself. Environmental studies show prolonged exposure to decay, even slow, subtle decay, triggers low-grade stress responses in the brain. You don't call it anxiety. You just breathe shallower, get distracted faster, forget why you walked into the room, because something around you has stopped becoming, and your system has started to match it. Not all stagnation feels dramatic. Sometimes it feels like staying still, because moving would mean noticing how long you've been fading too. You don't have to hold on, just because it still holds its shape. Not everything that stands is meant to stay. Some things linger, not because they serve you, but because you've forgotten how to say goodbye gently. A fading plant does not need saving. It needs witnessing, and then it needs releasing. Because sometimes healing doesn't ask you to fix. It asks you to let go of what quietly stopped moving forward, long before you did. And when you do, you begin to see something else, that even the plants still alive can lose their power when they're placed where no energy was meant to live. It's healthy, it's green, but it doesn't feel right. It leans near the hallway where light never lands. It stands at the center of a room no one rests in. And every time you walk past, You flinch just a little, without knowing why. Not because it's broken, but because it's being placed where energy doesn't know what to do with it. In Feng Shui, plants are amplifiers. They absorb, radiate, and mirror the energy of the space they occupy. But when placed in corners that are stagnant, or in paths where qi is meant to move freely, they become accidental blockages. The qi slows. The current breaks. What was meant to nourish now disrupts. It's not the plant's fault. It's the placement. And sometimes, the stillness you feel in that room isn't peace. It's friction without a name. It's like a truth you spoke at the wrong moment. Not because it was untrue, but because the room wasn't ready. So it sat there, heavy, suspended, awkward in the silence. Or maybe it's like showing up as your full self in a space that only welcomes pieces. You're not the mistake, but you carry the discomfort, comes of not belonging. That's what misplaced energy feels like. Even when it's beautiful, even when it means well, your nervous system is always mapping space. Even when you think you're just walking through a room, your brain is scanning for flow, for obstruction, for where it's safe to release tension. A plant in a transition zone, like a hallway or narrow path, doesn't just take up space. It creates micro-friction, small hesitations, subtle detours, unnoticed tension. Over time, your body reads that space as effort. And the worst part? You start calling it normal. Until one day, you move the plant, and something inside you exhales. For the first time in weeks. Sometimes, healing is not about removing. It's about relocating what still has life to where life is ready to meet it. A plant out of place is not a problem. It's a message, a soft reminder that alignment isn't just about intention, but position, and all it takes to restore the flow is a single shift in where energy is allowed to breathe again, because the most beautiful things can still cause stagnation when they're asked to bloom where nothing ever moves. It doesn't take up much space. It doesn't crawl. It doesn't fade. It just stands there, quiet, pointed, like it knows. It could hurt you if you got too close. So you don't. You walk wider. You turn your shoulder. You flinch in small ways. You've forgotten how to name. Not because it's dangerous, but because your body remembers what your mind keeps dismissing. In Feng Shui, shape is not just an aesthetic, it's an intention. And sharp shapes carry cutting energy. Plants with spikes, hard tips, or pointed leaves emit what we call sha qi, penetrating, aggressive energy that disturbs the flow around it, especially in spaces meant for softness, like bedrooms, meditation zones, or near entrances. These forms send micro signals of alertness to the nervous system. They don't scream. They just whisper, "Stay ready. Don't rest. Don't soften." And eventually, you don't. It's like the person who never raised their voice, but always made you shrink. They didn't say much, but they looked at you in a way that made your body fold in. So you spoke more carefully. You sat differently. You adjusted yourself, just a little, so their sharpness wouldn't find you. And maybe you still do that now. Not with them, but with everything that reminds your body how to brace before it's even touched. The human body is built to detect threat long before the mind gives it a name. Sharp shapes, even beautiful ones, activate what scientists call the orienting response. Your eyes lock, your posture shifts, your breath holds, just slightly. You're not in danger, but your body doesn't trust that yet. In healing design, spikes, points, and jagged lines are known to trigger low-level stress states. The body enters subtle alert. You don't run. You just don't rest. Especially when those shapes live in spaces meant for safety, like your bedroom, your entryway, or the corner you go to breathe. Over time, that constant edge around you becomes an edge within you, and what was meant to decorate becomes something your nervous system quietly negotiates every single day. You don't have to get rid of it. Just notice how much softer you breathe. When you're not standing next to it, not everything sharp is violent. Some things harm simply by reminding your body that it must stay ready. But peace doesn't grow where readiness never ends. So maybe it's not about the plant. Maybe it's about the part of you that's been bracing quietly for far too long. And once you notice that, you begin to ask, what else in this room looks like it's helping me, but doesn't breathe at all? It stays green, no matter the season, no matter the light, no matter if you're home or not. It doesn't ask for water, doesn't lean toward the sun. It just exists, untouched, unchanging, and for a while, that feels safe, because nothing dies, nothing fades, nothing asks anything of you. But over time, you forget what it's like to be needed by something real. And that, too, is how life begins to feel present, but no longer alive. In Feng Shui, real plants don't just take up space. They take part in it. They breathe with your home. They shift when you shift. They pull energy from the air and give some back. But a fake plant? It doesn't belong to the cycle. It doesn't inhale. It doesn't lean. It doesn't know you're there. It creates the illusion of life without the rhythm that makes life real. And the more you surround yourself with that stillness, the more your space forgets how to respond to you. Your energy no longer returns to you. It just dissolves into things that never asked for it in the first place. It's like talking to someone who remembers your birthday but never asks how your heart is. The conversation flows. The laughs are timed. The check-ins come right on schedule. But when you hang up, there's a silence that doesn't feel restful. Not because they were unkind, but because you were never really seen. You were witnessed, but not felt. And somehow, that became normal, until one day, someone looks at you, and something inside you moves toward the light again. Your nervous system doesn't respond to appearances. It responds to life. Real plants release micro-signals. Slight movements, subtle shifts in moisture, invisible compounds that whisper, "I'm here with you," and your body relaxes. Not because it understands, but because it feels connected. Fake plants don't just miss those signals. They replace them with silence. Not a peaceful silence, but a kind that slowly teaches your body not to expect anything real. Your brain starts to register presence without participation, color without breath, company without communion. And over time, the space doesn't feel wrong. It just stops feeling anything at all. You don't need to fill your home with things that look alive. You deserve what breathes back, what leans when you lean, what fades with the seasons, what reminds you that growth and change are part of peace, not a threat to it. Stillness can be healing, but not when it's hollow. So maybe it's time to return your space to the things that truly live, not just for the way they look, but for the way they love you back. Because when everything around you breathes again, something inside you finally will too. These 5 plant mistakes weren't loud. They didn't shout. They stood quietly, in corners, in habits, in good intentions. And that's exactly why they drained you. But now that you've seen them, you can begin to shift the energy with your eyes, with your hands, with your breath. Not to make your home perfect, but to make it a place that breathes with you again. And then there are the things that stopped growing long ago, the ones that cracked, that chipped, that faded quietly in the corner. But you kept them because they once meant something, because they still worked, because letting go felt heavier than holding on. But even silence can carry a fracture, and even a small crack can split the energy of an entire space. You wake not just into morning, but into a ritual you never consciously chose. A rhythm of reaching for what's been cracked, but never questioned. The chipped cup sits exactly where it always does. Not because it brings joy, not because it reflects who you are becoming, but because it's what's left, what stayed, what didn't demand replacement. And somehow, That became enough. You've run your fingers over the fracture, like someone tracing an old scar, not to remember, but because forgetting feels dishonest. You drink from it without hesitation now, without pause, and your body, gentle, loyal, silent, receives the message again. This is okay. This is what you deserve. And it starts to believe it. Not once, but every single morning. In Feng Shui, a cup is never just a cup. It is a sacred vessel, a boundary that invites nourishment and says to energy, you are safe to land here. But when that boundary is cracked, Qi doesn't flow with grace. It hesitates. It splinters. It escapes in directions it was never meant to go. The moment you pour liquid into that fracture, you pour energy into a wound. And that energy doesn't settle. It trembles. It spins. It won't stay. So you begin your day with a vibration that cannot hold. And over time, your nervous system adjusts, not to stillness, but to subtle chaos. The cup looks still, but the Qi inside is fleeing. The good enough. She shrinks her needs before others ask her to. The crack in the cup feels familiar, like the way she makes herself small so others can breathe. The practical. She says it's wasteful to replace it. But her body remembers how often she's been told that asking for more is selfish. The stoic. She drinks in silence. Because silence is safer than admitting. She's tired of holding everything together. The repeater. She doesn't even notice the chip anymore. Because she spent her whole life training her eyes to look past what hurts. It's not a cup. It's the text you didn't send. The rest you didn't take. The boundaries you didn't hold. The mornings you told yourself, this is fine, while something deeper whispered, but it never really was. It's the echo of your usefulness, the ache of always showing up, while secretly hoping someone would tell you, you don't have to anymore. The cup is not ceramic. It is memory. It is habit. It is a love letter to the parts of you that made broken feel normal. Neuroscience shows the brain doesn't just record stories. It records repetition. The body remembers how we treat it, even in silence, even in rituals we stop noticing. Every time you pick up that chipped cup, you repeat a neural loop, a message that says, this is enough, even when it isn't. Your hands adjust, your breath shortens, your body calibrates to a life lived at 80%. And the worst part, you become so good at coping that you forget restoration is even possible. So before you reach for it again, pause. Let your fingers trace the crack, the way you would trace the timeline of your own becoming, and say, thank you for holding me when I didn't know how to hold myself. Then set it down, not because it's broken, but because you're not. Choose a new cup, not perfect, but whole. Let it say to your nervous system, this is what receiving should feel like. Let it say to your healing, you can start here. Let it say to your chi, you are safe now. You stand in front of it every day, maybe in a hallway, maybe by the door. It's cracked but not shattered, distorted but not broken enough to demand action. So you look anyway, even though the reflection doesn't feel right, even though you've adjusted your angle, just enough to pretend the line across your face doesn't exist. You keep using it, not because it tells the truth, but because it's always been there. And in that quiet routine, a lie settles. This is what I look like. This is who I am. But it isn't. It never was. You've just been meeting your own gaze through something that no longer sees you clearly. In Feng Shui, mirrors are amplifiers. They don't just reflect light, they reflect truth, identity, and flow. A broken mirror doesn't just distort images. It distorts chi. It fractures the integrity of energy in a space, sending it in conflicting directions. When you look into a cracked mirror, you split your presence. You divide your field. Your energy disperses into fragments before the day even begins. And the worst part? You don't even notice, because over time, you've adjusted to being partially seen, partially understood, partially whole. The avoider. She looks fast, fixes her hair, moves on, because looking longer might reveal a version of herself she no longer recognizes. The achiever. She tilts her head to the good side, curates her reflection, adjusts posture not for pride, but to hide exhaustion she refuses to admit. The wounded one. She doesn't look anymore. Not really, because when your past is still stitched to your self-image, every reflection feels like an old scar reopened. The invisible one. She sees a blur. Not because her vision is poor, but because no one ever showed her how to see herself with clarity. The mirror is not glass. It's a diary of all the times you've asked yourself, is this really me? It's the face you adjusted before walking into a room, the smile you fixed to survive the meeting, the eyes that practiced not looking tired, even when you were unraveling inside. A broken mirror is not about surface. It's about distortion, of truth, of self, of what you've been taught to accept as just the way things are. And every time you pass it, you let that distortion name you again. Psychologically, mirrors are more than tools. They are portals of self-perception. Studies show daily mirror interactions influence body image, self-esteem, and emotional regulation. A cracked mirror reinforces fragmented identity. It mirrors back not just your image, but every moment of disconnection you've internalized. Your brain sees the distortion, but instead of questioning it, you adjust to it. You begin to treat fractured feedback as fact, and the body follows. You carry yourself as if you were incomplete, even when you're whole. This isn't about fixing a mirror. It's about releasing a version of you that has only ever been seen in pieces. So today, stand in front of it, just for a moment, and whisper to your reflection, "I see you, even through this." Then gently turn away, not out of shame, but out of choice. Replace it, or remove it, or cover it with something that reminds you what it feels like to be seen fully. Because healing doesn't always begin with what you add. Sometimes it begins with what you're finally willing to no longer reflect. There's a clock in your home that hasn't ticked in months, maybe years. It's quiet, still, forgotten, and yet it's still there, hanging on the wall, sitting on a shelf, holding a time that no longer moves, but somehow still holds space. You don't think much about it, but every time you walk past, your energy does. It pauses. It mirrors the stillness. It echoes the question you stopped asking. Why haven't I moved? You didn't mean to stop, but something in you did. And now, time continues everywhere, except here. In Feng Shui, clocks represent rhythm, momentum, and the sacred agreement between energy and time. A broken clock interrupts that flow. It becomes a symbol of stuckness, of chi that has nowhere to go, of life that has paused without permission. Dead clocks don't just stop ticking. They trap energy, and trapped energy accumulates like dust on the spirit. Instead of circulating, chi begins to stagnate. It pools, it dulls, and slowly it tells your home, nothing is moving here, and your body believes it. The overwhelmed, she meant to fix it, but life kept piling up. Now it just hangs there. He's a reminder of everything she hasn't gotten around to. The numbed. She doesn't even notice it's stopped. She's stopped too. Somewhere between the past and what could have been, she folded into stillness. The loyal. It belonged to someone she loved. She doesn't use it, but she can't let it go. Because sometimes grief disguises itself as preservation. The delayed one. She thinks she's just waiting. But waiting has become a way of life. And the clock, a perfect alibi for why nothing's begun. The broken clock is not just a thing. It's a story of something that once worked, then didn't, and never got permission to leave. It's the job you stayed at too long. The project you never started. The chapter you promised you'd close, but left open so long it started to rot. It's the pause you turned into permanence. The temporary that became your truth. And every time you see that clock, you don't just remember time. You relive what you didn't let move. Environmental psychology shows static objects create static behavior, especially when tied to time. A dead clock sends subliminal signals to the subconscious. Nothing is changing. Nothing will. When that becomes daily background noise, you begin to act accordingly, with hesitation, with resistance, with low-grade dread. that something is stuck and it might be you. And over time, you confuse stillness with failure, when all it ever was a moment you forgot to release. This isn't about fixing the clock or replacing it. It's about reclaiming movement. Today, take it down. Not in anger, not in urgency, but with reverence. Say to it, "You taught me where I paused. Now I choose to resume." And then move something. Start small. A drawer, a door, a breath. Because movement doesn't begin in the calendar. It begins in the chi. And every new tick starts with the courage to stop standing still. There's a plate you keep. Maybe just one. Maybe more. Its edge is uneven. A chip where a piece used to be. It still works. It still holds food. So you keep using it. Over and over again. You don't even flinch anymore. You place your meals gently, careful not to draw attention to the floor. But your body remembers. It notices how you prepare nourishment on something that has already broken, and still tell yourself, "This is fine." But there's a difference between gratitude and survival, between contentment and conditioning, between enough and "this is all I'll allow." In Feng Shui, plates are about receiving. They hold what fuels you. They are your invitation to abundance. A chipped plate sends a subtle but steady message. I accept lack. I normalize damage. I make do. Qi doesn't flourish in environments that apologize for themselves. And your plate, quiet and mended, becomes a silent apology you repeat 3 times a day. Scarcity energy isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like being too grateful for not enough. Sometimes it whispers, "You should be thankful. Others have less." But in healing homes, abundance isn't guilt. It's permission. The self-sacrificer, she eats last, serves herself whatever's chipped or mismatched. Because somewhere along the way, she learned that her fullness should come second. The humble one. She keeps the plate because it reminds her not to be spoiled. But what it really reminds her of is every time she had to apologize for having needs. The healer, she thinks keeping broken things is compassionate. But deep inside, she's afraid to admit she deserves more. The inherited, she never questions it. It was always there, and like so many things, she accepted it as tradition, not trauma. It's not about the plate. It never was. It's the way you lower your voice when you ask for help. It's the instinct to make do with what's offered, even when it doesn't serve you. It's the part of you that flinches at the idea of luxury. The part that equates new with too much. The way you tell yourself, "This is still good," even when it stopped feeling good a long time ago. Behavioral psychology shows our brain forms beliefs from repeated associations. Every time you prepare a meal on a chipped plate, you're not just feeding your body, you're feeding a story. A story that says, You should be grateful for scraps. That's enough joy for today. You don't need better, you just need to behave. And over time, your nervous system doesn't just tolerate scarcity, it expects it. It calibrates to it. And worse, it distrusts abundance when it arrives. Today, don't just set the table, set the energy. Hold the chipped plate in your hands and say, "Thank you for holding what I thought I had to settle for." Then release it. Not because it failed, but because you're ready to stop anchoring your nourishment in stories of smallness. Choose a new one, something whole, not because it's expensive, but because it reminds you you deserve to be fed on something that reflects the worth of what you're becoming. It's just a light. Sometimes it flickers. Sometimes it doesn't. You've gotten used to it. You tell yourself, "It's fine, it's not urgent." But each time it blinks, your body reacts. A micro startle. A pause you didn't choose. A momentary confusion that builds slowly into fatigue. You think you're just tired, distracted, off. But maybe what's off is the signal your home is sending you over and over again. This light doesn't hold, and neither then does your focus. In Feng Shui, lighting isn't decoration. It's direction. It guides qi, invites clarity, anchors intention. Flickering light sends mixed messages to your space. It confuses the energy. It jitters. It pulses in contradiction. Instead of steady flow, how you get noise? Energetic, static. Your thoughts follow suit. Your intentions scatter. And what should feel like presence feels like pressure. Focus breaks. Rest evades. And the room no longer supports your mind. It reflects its restlessness. The over-adaptive. She learns to work around it. Moves her laptop. Switches rooms. But never fixes the source. Because she's too used to adjusting herself. The minimalist martyr. She says, "It's not that bad." Because brightness feels indulgent. Because somewhere, someone has no light at all. The unnoticed one. She doesn't even see the flicker anymore. Because she's learned to ignore every inconsistency that doesn't scream. The distracted. She blames her lack of focus on herself. But the truth is, her environment has been whispering disorder for months. It's not a bulb. It's how you've tolerated half light. How you've accepted a rhythm that falters and called it still workable. It's the conversation you postponed. The project you started and abandoned. The version of yourself you glimpsed, but never sustained. Every flicker is a decision. Who you delayed. A voice you silenced. A clarity you blurred. And now you wonder why you can't stay focused. Maybe it's because nothing in your space and ever stays on. Environmental design research shows inconsistent lighting triggers low-grade stress. It keeps the nervous system alert, on edge, watching for the next disruption. When your lighting flickers, so your mind mimics. When your surroundings are inconsistent, your clarity becomes conditional. This isn't your fault. It's your feedback loop. Your body isn't failing to focus. It's adapting to unpredictability. To heal, you don't need discipline. You need consistency. You need light that stays. Today, replace the bulb. Not because it's annoying, but because your focus is sacred. Your clarity deserves infrastructure. Say to the old flickering light, "You taught me how to sit in uncertainty, but I'm ready for steadiness now." Turn on the new one and let it stay. Let the room glow without blinking. Let your nervous system finally breathe. Because true focus isn't about forcing attention. It's about trusting that your space won't dim on you when you need it most. So maybe it wasn't one big shift. Maybe it was 35 quiet invitations to return, not to minimalism, not to perfection, but to presence. One drawer cleared, one mirror turned, one breath slowed, and something inside you softened. Because healing your home was never about changing everything. It was about remembering what feels alive, what feels honest, what truly belongs. And now, of this space, you move through daily, holds you differently, more gently, more truthfully, more you. If this journey brought peace to even one corner of your home, let it ripple. Share it. Send it to someone who needs it. Let the energy keep unfolding. Your space speaks. Wisdom listens.